Welcome back. And today we're going to chat about the basic week. John and I have published 2 articles recently on the Endurance Essentials site, and I wanted to chat you through how you might apply those because they're not really either or articles. The basic week philosophy is a philosophy of consistent training over time, and I wanted to explain how you apply that. So let's wind it back all the way back to the turn of the century. And John Hellemans is down in Christchurch with his sports medicine and his general medicine business. And he's parked at the QE2 training facility, and everybody has to walk by the front door of his practice every morning when they go to swim training. And if you were a triathlete or a multi-sport athlete or even a cyclist, swimmer, or runner, and you wanted John to be your coach and your doctor, you'd go into his office, he'd give you a physical, and he'd find out about your endurance training background. And then what he would do is just write out a simple week on one piece of paper. And he'd lay it out for you. And it might be a week that looks like this. I got this week from John. He's got hundreds of these in his files. Different weeks for different athletes. And each week fits the athlete's life situation. So when you're applying the principle, you want to build a week that fits your life. And really, it's a frequency-based approach to multisport and triathlon. So this week that we're looking at right now is the 3-3-3 week, which means 3 swims, 3 bikes, 3 runs done every week. And John would give you your piece of paper and he'd tell you to go away for a month, do the week, and then come back. We'd have a chat and adjust the week. And while you were doing your week, you would see John because he does all the same sessions around town. And he had a number of group sessions. Some were coached. Some would just be come ride your bike with John. And he would see you training. And occasionally he might give you some tips about understanding how steady feels, how moderately hard feels, how hard zone 4 feels. If you're doing your bike run reps or your run reps, he would be there. He'd be there at the strength and conditioning sessions when we were running up and down hills and piggybacking each other and doing burpees and stuff. And you would just learn by doing. And that's what it's about. So if you have access to a group or a club with experienced athletes and coaches, I'd encourage you to learn by doing. It's the fastest way to learn. It's a much better way to learn than book smarts. And here's the competitive week that John shared. And we cover that in our article that we published earlier this week. And that's a 4-4-4 week. Now, this week is a significantly bigger commitment, time commitment for you, the athlete. It adds up to 14 to 20 hours, depending on where you are on the spectrum within the week. And this is the kind of week that a triathlete, a top amateur triathlete, would be doing if they wanted to compete in their age category. And depending on how many weeks like this you could tolerate within your year, that would largely drive your results. But what I want to talk about today is really moving between the different types of frequency and using that with across an entire year for yourself. Now, John talks about these points within the articles when he gives you tips for implementing the weeks. But what I wanted to do is make it a little bit clearer because this is a powerful way to use frequency depending on the commitment you're able to give at any given time of the year. There'll be in the winter when the weather's bad, or if your life gets really crazy, you'll need to adjust the frequency. So doing each sport twice a week. So up there, frequency by sport, twice a week. That is an appropriate level of frequency for a health and fitness athlete. You just want to get the body going. And even for an elite athlete, if it's right after a race and it's a deep recovery situation, it would be kind of a maintenance program. You're maintaining your ability and your skills within each sport. Step up, the 3-3-3 would be for a recreational athlete getting ready to race. Now, that level of commitment for an elite might be maintenance because they're stepping down. So as you step up and down the frequency per sport per week, It also, your focus will be changing. And if you want to increase your focus, what you do is you increase your frequency. So that 4-4-4 week, the competitive amateur week, that is someone looking to compete and be very competitive within their category. And then ultimately at the elite level, 5 times a week, 5 swims, 5 bikes, 5 runs. Combined with that, a couple strength and conditioning sessions, yoga on top, mobility work on top, massage on top, and seeing other people within your support team on top. It's effectively a full-time job at that stage. And so even the elites are going to be moving through this continuum, and the continuum is going to change between sports. So if you're a 3-3-3 athlete, and that's your kind of your minimum commitment, you're tolerating that well. If you want to increase your focus in a particular sport, you could bump the frequency. So you might be a 3-4-3 athlete. Likewise, when you're tempted to do a bike focus block or a run focus block, I would encourage you to maintain your minimum frequency. And what would your minimum frequency be? Well, it's probably one level down from whatever your standard frequency is. So if you're a 3-3-3 athlete, you want to ride some more, make sure you got 2 bikes and 2 swims in there. Don't let your frequency go to 0 in any sport, particularly the highly based skill sports like swimming. Those gaps are part of the reason why you're not going to be progressing year to year, because you're going to be falling quite dramatically when your frequency goes to 0. So if you can just keep a little bit in there of each sport, it'll be easier for you when you want to ramp back up in the spring or in the summer when you're returning or you decide to do a race. The other thing that I found very helpful, days where you swim, bike, and run are really useful. And it doesn't have to be a practice triathlon, although I do recommend doing that kind of a continuous swim, bike, run workout is really helpful once a week. But days where you do all 3 sports kind of put you ahead for your weekly frequency. So if you're a competitive amateur and you have a relatively flexible schedule, then you want to be thinking about probably 3 days a week that have a swim, a bike, and a run. And the focus can be different and the duration can be different between the days. Don't get locked in and sort of having to get these specific ratios. It's just the fact that you're doing all 3 sports in a day makes it very easy for you to hit your minimum frequency targets. It also means you don't end up cramming training into every single day, and you can keep your easy days really easy. So you can cycle the load down and then have these longer endurance days elsewhere in the week, and you don't end up with a whole bunch of just medium and high days. You actually get some low days, some recovery days into your week. And for the health and fitness athlete and the recreational athlete, the easiest way to build your week is to alternate between a bike run day and a swim day, a bike run day and a swim day, and then a longer day where you do all 3. And that's sort of 5 training days. The other 2 days will be lighter days within your week. And John lays that out roughly. Now, if you're a low volume athlete, your recovery days need to be easy days, but they don't necessarily need to be as physically easy as these higher volume athletes, because your life structure might be what's constraining your ability to actually just get time to train. Now, a final point for everybody, if you want to ramp the training stress, you're going to have to lower your life stress to absorb that training. And athletes that are very good at jamming in the higher volume weeks, those 14 to 20 hour weeks, usually have a blind spot when it comes to the need to back off and put in those easy days. So a tip you'll read from John and me frequency is build in your recovery first. In other words, your down weeks, your easy days, build those into the structure of your life and make sure you're adapting to your training and getting the benefit of all your hard work. Thanks. We'll see you back here next time.